It all started on what should have been an ordinary morning, but from the moment I inhaled the cold New York air, I knew something wasn't right. There it was, a plain, unmarked envelope sitting on my doorstep. No return address, no postage, just my name scribbled in black marker, all caps. Inside, a black and white photograph. I stared. It was Ella Martin, the part of my past I'd buried in silence. My college roommate, my confidant, the one who had once sacrificed her voice for me. And now, here she was, standing outside a weathered wooden cabin, expression vacant. The photo looked recent. Beneath it, a handwritten line. Some silences demand payment. I felt the tremble before I realized my hands were shaking, because Ella was dead. At least, that's what they told me. 5 years ago, I filed the missing person report. I helped with the search. I stood beside her mother and lied through my teeth, saying we did everything. But we hadn't. We were told to shut up, so we did. Because the ones who told us had power. And now, someone was speaking again. I looked out the window. A black SUV sat across the street. Engine off, windows tinted, still, watching. That photograph, that vehicle, and the weight of a name I had buried, all of it felt like a noose tightening around my silence. Because what you bury never stays buried. I tucked the photograph into my bag and closed the door behind me. But the silence inside my apartment felt heavier than usual, like the walls were inching closer, listening. Ella Martin's eyes haunted me. Eyes that once held laughter and revolution, now dim, distant, and framed by the wooden slats of some unknown cabin. In the photo, she looked posed, not by choice. Her smile was wrong. I made coffee just to keep my hands busy, but they wouldn't stop shaking. Then came the next wave. My email pinged. No subject, no sender. One line. You can still speak, but do you have the courage? And below that, a single link. I didn't click it, not yet, but I knew they were watching. The same they who told us to stay quiet 5 years ago when Ella vanished. The same power that erased entire files and threatened us behind closed courtroom doors because we knew something and because we'd chosen fear over truth. Flashback. 5 years ago. Winter at NYU was brutal, but Ella had this habit of saying things that would freeze time more than any wind chill. "Rachel," she said one night, curled under a blanket, "some truths don't need ears, they just need graves." I'd laughed. She liked poetry, but now those words felt like prophecy. After college, we joined a nonprofit that investigated child protection failures, especially in foster care. That's where we found it, the Parker children case. Government records claimed removed from abusive environments, relocated to state-supervised wellness centers. But Ella had found something else. Mind conditioning, isolation, forced compliance. A buried program with a code name, 10+. They were turning foster kids into behavioral test subjects. Ella wanted to go public. I wanted time to think. Then one night, she disappeared. Back in the present, I looked at the photo again. Behind the cabin, faint outlines of forested hills. In the bottom corner, a near-invisible sign nailed to a post, North Hollow Preserve. I searched the name online. Nothing. Then I zoomed in on the photo. A shadow, not Ella's. Someone standing behind a tree, barely visible, but there. She wasn't alone. I grabbed my coat down on the street. The SUV was silent inside. No radio, no questions, just the steady hum of the engine and the tension between my shoulder blades that wouldn't go away. The driver's name was Martin Graves. I learned that from the small ID badge clipped to the edge of his console. When he briefly checked a message, I caught the screen. R is with me, ETA 240. R, that was me, Rachel. ETA? I asked. Time of arrival. He replied coolly. We're going to North Hollow Preserve. My heart skipped. North Hollow. That's where the photo was taken. That's where Ella might have been. After hours of winding roads and narrowing trails, we pulled up to a gated stretch of land deep in Vermont's woods. The snow was ankle deep. Moonlight shimmered off the iced-over sign at the gate. Property of the Department of Educational Rehabilitation. Closed. Beyond the gate stood a large, decaying facility, part hospital, part prison. Windows sealed, roof wired with rusted fencing. Martin turned off the ignition. She was kept here, he said, for 3 years. Then she vanished. I followed him in. The halls were long, sterile. Faint crayon drawings on the walls, stick figures with sad faces, words like quiet, obey, and fix me, the echoes of children. Then we reached it, room 204. The plaque read, E. Martin, Isolation Phase 2. My chest tightened. I reached for the handle. Inside, a single metal bed, a wooden chair, and an old tape recorder sitting in the middle. Martin gave me a nod. Play it. I pressed the button. Ella's voice played. If you're hearing this, Rachel, it means I made it out. But not all of me did. They took my name, my memories, my voice. I became Subject 12A. You chose silence. I chose to fight. And now, I don't know which of us paid more. But if you're here, it means you're listening. And that's a start. Click. I was shaking, not from the cold, but from the weight of what I'd let happen. She's alive? I asked Martin, voice barely holding. Not sure, he said, but she left something behind. He handed me a box. Inside, photos of restrained children, confidential medical reports, behavioral compliance charts, government orders with blacked out names, and one crimson folder labeled 10+ restricted access. Why? I whispered. Martin stared at the floor. Because silence is easier to manage than healing. And she screamed too loudly. We drove back that night in silence, but I wasn't. Back in New York, I wasn't the same woman who had left. My apartment, once a sanctuary of deadlines and distractions, now felt like a tomb of my own cowardice. Everything reminded me of Ella, the silence I had accepted, the story I had abandoned, the voice I helped erase. I pulled out the box Martin had given me and spread its contents across my living room floor. Photos, reports, restraint logs, doctor's notes about non-compliance, surveillance screenshots of children being monitored like lab rats, and then a diary, Ella's diary. Inside, her handwriting, shaky at first, then sharp, furious. They told me my anger was a disorder. They punished me for asking questions. I screamed, and they told me I was broken. Each line hit like a punch to the gut. I listened to the recording again. Ella's voice, resigned, but not defeated. You chose silence. I chose to fight. And now, I don't know which of us pee. She was right. I had chosen silence. When she wanted to expose the truth about the Parker children, I told her to wait. When she begged me to leak the files, I deleted the email. When she vanished, I didn't scream. I let them bury her, and in doing so, buried a part of myself, but not anymore. I gathered everything, compiled a full investigative expose. Title, The Cost of Her Silence. I added every piece. Audio clips, photos, classified files. Even the audio tape from room 204. On the cover page, I wrote, "Silence doesn't protect the broken, it buries them." I was about to send it to my news outlet when my phone rang. Blocked number. I hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Rachel Corbin?" a clipped voice asked. "Yes, this is Homeland Security. The material in your possession is classified. Do not release it to the press. This is your final warning." Click. My hands trembled. They knew. They still wanted her erased. So I sent it all to the one person who didn't play by their rules. Laura Kessler, a rogue journalist who'd vanished from mainstream media after exposing oil lobby corruption. She ran her own encrypted network now, raw, unfiltered, unreachable. I uploaded everything with one message. If anything happens to me, publish it all. The next morning, I found something under my door. An envelope, no name. Inside, a single photograph. Ella, standing on a beach, alive. Her hair wild in the wind, a soft smile, peaceful eyes. On the back, One line. You found your voice, so I could keep mine. I wept for her, for me, for what was. The road left behind. 3 months later, the world woke up to a headline that couldn't be buried. The girl who never died. It was everywhere. The 10+ program, fully exposed. An illegal behavioral conditioning experiment on foster children. Sanctioned, hidden, and executed with surgical silence. Children who never got adopted. Marked as disposable. Erased. Ella's voice, her footage, her words, her drawings, all now burned across every platform. Deputy Director Marshall was arrested. Dr. Lenora Fields went into hiding. Martin Graves vanished into federal protection. And Ella, no one knew, but now the world did. A week later, I returned to Route 94, the place where Michael Corbin's car had been found 5 years ago. The snow had melted, but the silence remained. Michael, my father, he hadn't just tried to save Ella. He'd tried to save me by showing me what truth costs and what silence steals. I stood at the edge of the road with a letter in my hand, one I'd written for Ella but never sent. I read it aloud to the wind. Ella, I'm sorry. You were never broken. You were never a subject. You were a daughter, a fighter, a voice. What they did to you can't be undone. But now they see you, and they can never unsee you. I burned the letter. Ash scattered across the empty road. Then I sat in my car. The engine started, a smooth hum. And then, without touching anything, the left turn signal blinked just once, steady, deliberate, the same direction my father's car had faced the night he died. I smiled. I guess we're finally turning, Mike. And I drove into the twilight, toward a road that had waited far too long. End.